Let's uh let's start on our backs again. So just finding your way into a place where your spine can be at ease. Let your body find its way into stillness. Maybe let the eyes close. Feel how the breath itself is impacting your contact with the mat. Really just think about how you can find more and more ease in the shape. Position your body is working its way into. There's this massive oak tree on top of this huge cliff overlooking the ocean. Time that you inhale, let's bring our knees into a bent position so the kneecaps can point towards the ceiling. And then let's use the following inhale to bring the thighs in towards the torso. We'll give ourselves a nice little squeeze here. Just a little compression. Try to feel how that anterior hip crease is receiving, and maybe even squeeze the knees up towards the nose or shoulders a little bit. And then we'll relax the feet back down to the mat. Think about neutralizing the lumbar spine with a little core squeeze. Let's inhale and extend the arms overhead towards the space behind you, not towards the ceiling. And then we'll lift the hips up for a little neutral bridge. So we're just trying to get to the point where the quads, the belly, and the shoulders are all at one angle. And then just extend your fingers towards that space behind you. Keep that fingertip energy like you're anchoring there, and slowly release the tailbone back down to the mat. See if we can give that posterior chain a little length in the torso. Hollow your armpits out like you're trying to roll the armpits towards the edges of the room without allowing the lumbar to arch. So think about that core engagement, keeping the lower back neutral. And then see if you can wiggle the fingers just a little bit further away from you, keeping those armpits nice and hollowed out. And then relax the shoulders, bend the elbows. Let the shoulder girdle just melt into the mat. Let's inhale the palms and elbows together, right at kind of midline in the body, and then squeeze the forearms together as much as you can as you energize the elbows down towards the belt line. And now push the lateral edges of the shoulders out towards the mat again. And relax your arms towards cactus. Let the shoulder girdle just kind of find its way into that ease we've crafted. And then let's once again pull our thighs in towards our torso. We'll give ourselves that nice little squeeze. Think about pulling the knees towards the lateral edge of your rib cage and trying to push your pelvic bone up towards the ceiling. And then we'll relax that energy, neutralize the lumbar, and just roll into a little seat. From that seat, let's take the hands underneath the legs and just start to lean the spine back until we can find a place where the feet kind of hover a little bit. Little core engagement to keep that low back energy. Lay the toes out nice and wide, craft that space. And then keep the knee bend, keep the legs parallel, and just extend your right arm towards the front of your room. And then we're going to extend the legs and follow that with the right arm reaching out towards that left foot, ankle, or shin. Start to walk your left hand behind you and roll the torso open. And then from that right shoulder, start to work your way forward. See if we can get this big lateral pull. And we'll unwind the torso, walk ourselves back into staff, bend the knees, grab the hamstrings, and we'll rock back. Trying to create that stable balance, thinking about the core being engaged. And then keeping the legs parallel, we'll extend that left arm, both legs, and we'll follow that left hand going towards the right foot, ankle, or calf. And walking your right hand behind you and letting the torso rotate. Once you get that torso rotation, think about your left shoulder energizing forward. Try to open up some space. Using all that shoulder room that we built at the start of practice. This massive oak tree is absolutely filled with acorns. We'll roll our torso back to neutral and walk ourselves up towards staff. Get the core energy to elongate the torso, sweep the arms up and overhead, and let's forward fold. And so the branches are so loaded with these acorns that they're like weeping down towards the top of the cliffside. The cliffs itself are kind of this rocky protrusion from the earth. And so this giant oak tree has run its roots as wide as it can on the top of this cliff. Over the top of the rocks. When it feels appropriate, we'll walk ourselves back towards staff. And let's transition to hands and knees tabletop. Building your way into that solid foundation of tabletop, splaying the fingers out nice and wide, thinking about how the shoulders are integrating and holding the weight here. Let's rock our tailbone a little side to side. Keep the gaze straight down. Think about all of that lateral space we've already opened and really try to drive the tailbone into like depth as you sway. So instead of using the spine articulation to kind of move, think about keeping the length and just really swaying the hips into full depth. And then we'll come back to neutral spinal alignment, curl our toes, lift our seat, and roll back into down dog. Craft that length and that space and that depth. Think about the energy from your finger mounds rising through the spine and pushing out the tailbone. And then let's come back down to hands and knees tabletop. Exhale out and tuck the chin, round the back, tuck the tailbone. Inhale and drop the belly, lift the chin, lift the tailbone. Exhale, we reverse. Find that big full cat articulation. Inhale, we drop. Big full cow articulation. One more time in each direction. And then we'll come back to a neutral spinal column. Think about neutralizing the cervical spine as well. Curl your toes, lift your seat, and roll back into down dog. Get that full depth. Feel the fingerprints, finger mounds energizing and lifting you. And then let's come back to hands and knees tabletop. Flip the tops of the feet and glide your way into child's pose. Land, find that ease, find your capacity for fluid breath here. One night, there's this terrible storm, and because the oak tree hasn't found its roots deep enough, it topples over. It topples over towards the ocean side of the cliff, and it falls all the way into the ocean below, revealing this kind of barren land that it had been shading out underneath it. This windstorm had knocked all of the acorns off the branches. Many of them had rolled into the ocean, following the tree. But some of them had found their way, little tufts of grass, little pockets of clover, where they could be protected and nestled. When you're right, when you're ready, let's pull ourselves forward to hands and knees tabletop. From tabletop, we'll curl our toes, lift our seat, and find down dog. Slide your right foot forward in between the hands for lunge. Ground your left heel. Push to the pinky toe edge of that left foot. And then think about squaring up your shoulders, like you're trying to really find a balanced height alignment for your left and right shoulder. And then spin your left heel back up, step your right foot back into down dog. Shift forward to plank. And find down dog. And we'll slide our left foot forward. Ground our right heel. Feel the pinky toe edge of your right foot land and think about squaring up your shoulders. Hug that tailbone back into its medial alignment and really feel integrated. Then we spin the right heel up and step the left foot back into down dog. Shift forward to plank and lower yourself down to your belly. From here, let's take our hands towards our hips and then plant and anchor your forehead. So keep the cervical spine long. Think about that forehead anchor. Flex your quads so your kneecaps are lifted. And then squeeze your shoulders up away from the mat. And see if while doing that, you can push the crown of your head a little bit further towards the front of the room. And remember to fully breathe and articulate the completeness of your breath. Relax and slide your hands underneath your forehead. And be at ease here. When it feels appropriate, let's slide our hands underneath our shoulders. We'll press ourselves up to hands and knees tabletop. Curl the toes, lift the seat, find down dog. Walk your way forward into fold. Inhale into half lift. Exhale back into fold. Drift your awareness to your sacrum and let's roll ourselves up vertebrae by vertebrae. We'll come all the way into mountain. Bring our hands together. A heart center. When it feels appropriate, let's slide our left foot straight back into lunge. Sweep the arms up, fully express crescent. Bring the hands back down to heart center and we'll step forward. Refining mountain. Balance, settle, land. Let's do the same thing to side two. Right foot slides straight back. Sweep the arms to fully express crescent. Drop the hands to heart center and we'll return to the front of the mat. Rebalance, re-anchor. Think about being stable here. Left foot slides back. Left heel grounds and we roll to two. Big, wide, expansive space. Take the right hand down towards the medial edge of the right foot for a little side angle. Big, wide, expansive shoulder girdle. All that shoulder space from the beginning of class. Drop the left hand behind you, back of the hand towards the sacrum. Palm away from you. Might be a clearer way to say that. Re-extend, and we'll draw ourselves back up into two. Settle into that space. Spin the left heel up, we'll find crescent. Drop the hands and then step to the front of the mat. Resettle, rebalance, become at ease here. Right foot slides straight back. Right foot grounds and we roll to two. Big, wide, expansive two. Left hand's coming down to the medial edge, big toe edge of the left foot. We have this big, wide shoulder girdle. Then we drop the right hand behind us, palm away from us towards the sacrum. Roll that shoulder open. Right hand reaches towards the ceiling, come back up into two. Right heel spins up, crescent. Drop the hands and return to the front of the mat. At ease here. Sweep your arms up and overhead. Exhale through fold. Inhale into half lift. Exhale back into fold. Plant your hands. We'll walk back into down dog. Come down to hands and knees. Tabletop, flip the tops of the feet and sink back into child's pose. Settling, landing, anchoring yourself here. One very lucky or very unlucky acorn half fell off the cliff. It rolled over the edge, but on the way down, it got stuck in a little crevice on the rocky cliffside. Time passed. Precipitation came. Those lucky acorns protected enough. Sprouted taproots that began twisting down towards the earth. Some of them found enough moisture, enough nutrients to sustain, and others didn't. We'll give ourselves 30 more seconds here. Feel that anterior hip crease space. Really think about how you can relax into further depth. Last 10 seconds.
When it feels appropriate, hands connect to the mat in front of us. We'll pull ourselves
Forward to hands and knees tabletop. And from hands and knees tabletop, we'll curl our toes, lift our seat, and find down dog. Walk to the front of the mat. Inhale into half lift. Exhale back into fold. Drift your awareness to your sacrum. Roll or sweep your way up into mountain. Settle into that mountain and bring your hands together at heart center. Breathe here. Slide our left foot straight back into lunge. Ground to your left heel and roll to 2. Check your feet. Make sure that that front foot is pointed straight towards the front of the room, and then bring the hands back to heart center. Right shoulder is going to rotate. Right hip crease hugs back as we find this little modified warrior 1. Think about the pinky toe edge of the back foot. Think about how the hips are giving us this rotation, how we can keep the neutrality in the middle of the body. And then we'll roll back into 2. Note that right knee is going to want to collapse in. Stay wide with that space. Think about how much energy you have on the pinky toe edge of the right foot, how active the arches are on both feet. Slide back into your right hamstring. And just tilt forward so that you can reach just a little further towards the front of your room. And then we'll rebend the knee, come back into 2, spin the left heel up and we'll find crescent. And drop the hands and return to the front of your mat. Right foot slides back. Right heel grounds, we roll to 2. Bring the hands together at heart center. Left shoulder, left hip crease. Roll our way to warrior 1. Pinky toe edge of the right foot active. The arches of both feet helping to support the strength of the shape. Roll back into 2. Think about how that left knee wants to collapse in and stay wide. Slide back into the left hamstring. Tilt and reach towards that front of your room space. Just putting a little activity into that posterior chain front side. Rebend the knee, warrior 2. Think about the strength of the shape here. Right heel spins up. Crescent. Drop the hands and we'll return to the front of the mat. Inhale, sweep the arms up and overhead. Exhale through forward fold. Inhale into half lift. And exhale back into fold. Settle all the way into this fold. Think about how you can be at ease in this fold. How the top of your head can relax and draw further depth into this fold. And then when it feels appropriate, let's plant our hands and we'll walk our way into down dog. And then shift our way forward to plank. Lower ourselves to our belly. Flex the quads. Anchor the forehead. Hands to your sides or to your sacrum, whatever feels best for your shoulders. Lift the shoulders up away from the mat. Maybe we lift the forehead maybe 1/4 of an inch away from the mat. We maintain our capacity to breathe. Keep the quads active and flexed. Kneecaps are lifted. Relax. Slide your hands underneath your forehead. Our little crocodile pose. Let your body really be at ease here. We'll give ourselves just 20 more seconds here. When it feels appropriate for you, let's put our hands underneath our shoulders, push ourselves up to hands and knees tabletop. And from hands and knees, tabletop, we'll once again curl our toes, lift our seat, and find down dog. As you get back into this down dog, give the hips a little sway. Think about that lateral space. Combine it with that posterior chain space and think about the tailbone continually working further and further into the shape. And then we'll slide our left foot forward into lunge. Ground our right hand and take our left hand into this nice, strong twist. Think about the smoothness of that left quad. Plant your left hand and sweep yourself up into crescent. Rock back into that right heel. Ground your right heel and keep the shoulders and hips squared up. Nice little warrior one. Slide back into your left hamstring and then tilt the torso, the fingers, and the head towards the front of your rib. Think about that left hamstring activation here. Rebend the front knee and sweep yourself up into warrior one. Drop the hands down to the mat. Spin your right heel up and step your left foot back into down dog. Shift forward to plank. Lift the seat back into down dog. And step the right foot forward into lunge. Ground your left heel. Sweep yourself up into warrior one. Hips, shoulders anchoring you forward. Slide back into that right hamstring. Extend your way forward. Really think about driving that space into the right hamstring. Rebend the front knee and sweep yourself up. Put the hand down on the mat. Spin the left heel up. Step the right foot back into down dog. Sway the hips and get all the way into that depth. Now we should have a lot more room to find here. Energize back towards that hip space. Come down to hands and knees, tabletop. Flip the tops of the feet. And sink back into child's pose. Hamstrings relax back here. Hamstrings relax, allowing the back to get more space, more depth. Give ourselves 20 more seconds here. Really finding ease. When it feels appropriate, hands grip into the mat in front of you. Pull ourselves forward to hands and knees, tabletop. From hands and knees, tabletop, rolling the toes, lifting the seat, finding down dog. Get that hip space. Think about getting the cervical spine in line with everything else. So you have one long angle of spinal column. And then let's walk our way forward to the front of the mat. Inhale into half lift. Exhale back into fold. Soft and easy and fluid. Drift your awareness to your sacrum. We'll roll ourselves up vertebrae by vertebrae. Bring our hands together, heart center. Slide your left foot straight back into lunge. Sweep the arms up into crescent. Push back into your left toe mound, left heel space. Really think about the quad on the left leg being strong, and then slide back into your right hamstring. Rebend the front knee. Ground the left heel. You've got a lot of space back there. Slide back into your right hamstring. And we're headed towards triangle. So right hand towards the medial edge, big toe edge of your right foot. Good long lateral line on your left side. Think about the right toes really spaced out and allowing for stability. Bend your right knee. Bring the torso up to 2. Smooth into the shape. Feel this wide medial space. Left heel spins up. We're into crescent. Push back into that left heel and feel all this space in the middle of the body. Drop the hands and we'll return to the front of the mat. Breathe here. Right foot slides straight back. Sweep the arms, fully express crescent. Think about the strength in the right leg, the right toe mound, the right heel, the right quad. Then slide back into your left foot or left hamstring. Rebend the front knee. Ground the right heel with all that new space, warrior 2. From warrior 2, we're tilting our way down into triangle. Big wide shoulder girdle. The toes on the left foot wide and active. Rebend that front knee. Draw yourself up into 2. Think about the medial space. Right heel spins up, crescent. All that space in the middle of the body. Drop the hands. We'll step to the front of the mat. Sweep the arms up and overhead. Exhale through forward fold. Inhale into half lift. Exhale back into fold. Plant your hands. We'll walk our way into plank. Establish that strength in plank. Squeeze the glutes. Slowly, gently, delicately lower yourself down to your belly. Hands are going to once again come to either our sacrum or our side body. Quads are flexed. Kneecaps are lifted. Core is engaged enough that the lumbar is not bowing. Draw the shoulders away from the mat. As the shoulders peel away, think about lifting your head maybe a ½ inch, no more. And then think about elongating the crown of the head out towards the front of the room. Building that space, that length. Relax, slide your hands underneath your forehead, little crocodile pose. Breathe here. We'll give ourselves 30 seconds. When it feels appropriate, as it feels appropriate for you, let's slide our hands underneath our shoulders. We'll press ourselves up to hands and knees, tabletop. From hands and knees, tabletop, curl your toes, lift your seat, find your way into down dog. Get all the way back into that depth. Think about that one singular angle of the spine. Walk yourself forward into fold. Inhale into half lift. Exhale back into fold. Awareness to the sacrum. Let's roll or sweep our way up into mountain. Bring your hands together, heart center. All right. Keep the engagement of the finger mounds, the heels of the hands, and the fingertips sprints. Really think about that hand energy together. And with an inhale, let's sweep our arms up and overhead. With an exhale, bring the hands together down behind you. And the key here is we do not want to tilt our head forward. We're staying with this width and we're really getting those elbows out wide. Good, strong core engagement. Inhale, arms come back up. Exhale to heart center. With an inhale, we're going to lower ourselves down towards either chair or malasana. What feels best for you. So we're either to here or we're to here. And then exhale, we're extending the arms out in front of us. Inhale back to heart center. Exhale up and overhead. Inhale behind the head. Exhale up. Inhale to heart center. Exhale straight out in front of us. With an inhale, hands are going to come back to heart center and we're going to stand back up in a mountain. Exhale, soften. Feel your body here as you breathe. The space you've crafted, the space you've created, the space that still desires to be released. Inhale, sweep your arms up and overhead. Exhale through forward fold. Inhale into half lift. Exhale back into fold. Plant your hands. We'll walk our way back into down dog. Come down to hands and knees tabletop. Flip the tops of the feet and sink back into child's pose. Land here. Breathe here. Be easy here. Of the tap roots that did find enough moisture and enough nutrients, was the either incredibly unlucky or incredibly lucky acorn stuck on the side of this cliff overlooking the ocean. And it had somehow just allowed its taproot to work down into the corner of this crevice where there was just enough soil. And its taproot, with nothing else to dig into, started to work its way further and further into the cracks of the side of this cliff. When it feels appropriate for you, let's pull ourselves forward to hands and knees tabletop, and we'll extend our legs straight out in front of us. As the legs extend out, let's follow them forward into a fold. Try to feel some of the space you've crafted here. And so with this taproot digging into the side of this cliff face, this little oak sapling starts to grow out of the side of this cliff. Because it is this seaside cliff, the wind never stops blowing. And so from its first leaf on, this little sapling has just been battered around on this rock cliff. And as it gets whipped and battered around, it starts to build more and more rigidity in the wood that it's producing. This kind of gnarled, twisted, wind-warped oak. Up on top of this cliff, almost the exact opposite. Sure, there's wind up there, but it's not nearly as constant, and it's not nearly as intense. And so all these little saplings from the acorns that found little grassy patches or little clover patches are growing into these beautiful, straight, perfect oak trees. This little mini forest emerging all at once. In the space where this one mighty oak once stood.
Last 20 seconds here. When it feels appropriate, bring ourselves back to a vertical spine, and we'll lower ourselves onto our back for some well-deserved horizontal time. Let your body truly relax here. Feel what you've done thus far with practice. When it feels appropriate for you, let's heel toe our feet out to the width of the mat and let the knees fall in towards one another. Breathe here. And the oak trees growing on top of this cliff get tall enough to see over the edge. You see this little stubby, battered, wind-worn sibling of theirs. And they begin to laugh at what a silly thing it is. Trying desperately to hang on to the side of this cliff. Growing out laterally so that it can catch more of the sun's rays, while the emerging forest above it continues to grow skyward in these perfectly straight, nearly manicured lines. Traditional tree lines. We'll give ourselves 60 more seconds here. What feels appropriate for you, let's bring our knees out to the width of our ankles. And then we'll walk our feet back in line with our hips. Let the bottoms of the feet come together and the knees fall out wide. Really settled in here. As years go by and decades pass, the trees on the top of the cliff start producing acorns. And this wretched little tree growing sideways on the side of the cliff face. Some years might produce an acorn or two. But they never have a chance. They fall directly into the ocean. Meanwhile, the trees on top of the cliff are producing so many acorns that their branches are weighed down. The canopy of this now cliffside forest is so thick that none of the acorns that fall have a chance, but each year more and more are produced. While the tree on the side of the cliff continues to pour more and more energy into its roots, just desperately trying to hang on. And as the roots dig deeper and deeper into this rock face, they start to actually separate cracks on the side of the cliff wider and wider. Give ourselves about 40 more seconds here. Feels appropriate for you. Let's bring our knees back together. We'll let the knees start to rock side to side. When it feels appropriate, we'll just let the knees stop on one side or the other, whatever side feels best for you. When it feels appropriate for you, we'll bring our knees back to neutral. And then let the knees fall over to the second side. One night there's this terrible storm, and the wind starts to blow like it's never blown before. All the acorns are shook loose from the trees on top of the cliff. When the morning sun rises, the forest that once was has crashed to the floor. Many of the trees that once stood tall atop this cliff have fallen into the ocean below. When it feels appropriate, we'll bring our knees back to neutral. If the knees come back to neutral, let's pause and ask ourselves if there's anything that we want, anything that we need, anything that we would benefit from prior to Shavasana. If there is, let's offer that to ourselves now. And if we have everything we need, if we're feeling ready for some stillness, Let's drop our way into our version of Shavasana. And just be at ease in this stillness. As these trees have scattered, they've given way to the forest floor again. And so some of the acorns that have fallen have found their way into little clover patches and little grass tufts. Some of the acorns have fallen off the cliff and into the ocean. And several of these acorns have fallen off the cliff and gotten stuck in these cracks, widened by this gnarled, wind-blown tree growing sideways out of the cliff face. Just finding our version of ease here. It's a little twisted tree on the edge of the cliff. Made it through the night without even noticing a difference in the winds. And as the little taproot started to emerge from the acorns that got stuck in between the cracks in the cliff, and little saplings started to, seedlings really, started to emerge. This mangled oak tree bent down and got close and whispered to them, grow however the wind guides you. Strength isn't always found in standing tall, but it's always found in holding on. Let's start to bring some movement to our fingers and our toes, to our wrists and our ankles, our elbows, our knees, shoulders, hips, neck, head, jaw, eyes, tongue. Eventually, the whole body moves, and we utilize that movement to transition from the shapes we are in. We'll return our way back into a seat. And in the seated space, spine gets tall, breath gets fluid, eyes closed. Let's inhale our hands together at heart center. Over the course of the next 7 days, can you remind yourself that strength isn't found in conformity, it's found in adaptability. And see how that impacts your experience. Thank you so much for being a part of this evening's practice and for being you. Namaste. Happy Monday, guys. Love you so much. Appreciate the heck out of you. Have a beautiful holiday. I'll be back on Sunday to recharge. Love the heck out of you. See you soon. Mwah.